Nikon versus Sony, super wide angle. Sony finally has a super wide G Master, the 16-35 f2.8, and my first tests with it have been amazing. But my question is, if I'm gonna go out and take some landscapes, should I bring the Sony a7R III with a 16-35 G Master, or should I grab my Nikon D850 with the 14-24 f2.8? Okay, I know they're not the exact same focal length, but they're about as close as we can get, and I just really love the super wide 14mm here, so I'll take a couple of test shots and see how it goes.
First, the Sony lens supports 82mm screw-on filters. The filter systems for the Nikon and Tamron are huge, expensive, and clumsy. Second, unrelated to the lens, the Sony camera sensor is stabilized, which will improve sharpness when shooting handheld and can even help with a tripod in windy conditions. However, the D850 supports a lower base ISO, reducing noise without requiring image stacking. The Nikon's 14mm is wider than the Sony's 16mm. I don't use 14mm often for landscapes, but I do for astrophotography. Sony does have a 14-24 lens, but it's not a G Master, it's a G, and it's f4 instead of f2.8. The Sony G Master was far sharper in both the center and the corners, all the way from 16mm to 24mm. The Sony lens's bokeh was also better because the Nikon showed harsh rings. The Sony lens's chromatic aberration was much better too.
I almost forgot that I also have this Tamron 15-30, so test that out too. Nikon lenses go the other way, I always forget.
At 16mm, the Sony and Tamron had about the same center sharpness. The Sony had much better corner sharpness. The Sony had better bokeh and chromatic aberration here too. At 30mm, the Tamron was a little sharper in the center than the Sony, but I didn't see any difference in the corners. The Tamron also had better bokeh, however, the Sony had better chromatic aberration. The Sony also went to 35mm, while the Tamron was limited to 30mm and the Nikon to 24mm.
Good news, the Sony 16-35 G Master actually a little sharper than the Nikon, so I can shoot with my a7R III and not feel like I'm missing out on anything. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to see more free review videos, lots of tutorials, hit the notification bell, and if you want to actually learn photography, check out Stunning Digital Photography at Amazon or at sdp.io/store. And don't forget to check out our photography buying guide, which will help you make sense of all these different lenses and actually save you money by teaching you how to get the most out of buying and selling used gear.